Watch it, boys racing. Here we go, and
It's
go
crisp.
hot. And go hot.
I'm good.
Very good.
The Paddler's Pod with Sam and Macca.
Hello and welcome back to the Paddler's Pod with Sam and Macca. My name is Sam Jordan and I'm very excited and a little bit caught off guard, to be totally honest, because we've been speaking about the 2024 ICF Ocean Racing World Championships and now they are here. In fact, this is the last episode we're going to be recording before you fly out. Mackenzie, Heinard and Macca, you're only a couple of weeks away from lining up again at the World Titles.
I know. How crazy it is. It just comes around. We speak about it so often and then all of a sudden it's right amongst us. I mean, we sort of knew it was going to happen this way. It always does. These things creep up and then all of a sudden, you know, it's like world title, Hong Kong, Perth, and then the season's over and you feel like you haven't even started yet. So,
well,
in
in some cases, I actually haven't even started yet.
Yeah, well, for some of us, they haven't even started at all. But yeah, it's cool. I actually leave. I fly to Sydney on Friday. Don't know when we're going to release this. I might even be in Sydney when this comes out for the North Bondi Ocean Ski Classic, and that's a little warm-up race ahead of the World Titles. And then yeah, Sunday out of here, gone. It's like next weekend.
Oh,
I'm
wow,
racing
it's
Worlds.
actually here.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when I was saying that, I probably didn't realise how close it actually is.
It's like a week and a half.
Look, I was going to say it did sneak up on us. It's always been on this day.
Yeah.
And perhaps we've been a little bit
They
caught
didn't
off guard.
change it.
It has been a couple of weeks since we've recorded a podcast as well. We are in the throes of, what is my end of financial year kind of season. It's our finals footy time here in Australia.
That's
There
great.
is-
What a great way to put it. In the newsroom,
is-
the end of financial year.
There is a lot going on, not just on the field in terms of the AFL and NRL grand finals. There's been a few players up to no good. Plenty to keep us busy here in Australia, but I'm really excited to be able to shift my focus back to ocean ski paddling. And Macro, on this episode as well, we're going to be looking at a couple of other disciplines too. We've had the World Lifesaving Championship since we last spoke. We actually forgot it. I actually forgot about that when we were chatting on the phone to Sam.
Yeah.
The Lifesaving World titles have been run and won. The Canoe Marathon World Championships were held over the weekend as well. And a lot of those athletes who are representing, well, for the most part, South Africa, are now on their way to Madeira to get ready for the Ocean Ski World Titles. We've had the Shore and Partners Foster race weekend. And at the end of the episode, we are going to be finally picking up the phone for that Talkback Radio segment that we have been teasing for a little while now. What have you forgotten? It was always going to take some beating, Mackie, your story, but the story that we do have for that one is, it's a cult classic, that's for sure.
It certainly is. How good. What's been going on in your world, Sam, apart from that? You been doing any paddling?
I have been doing a little bit of paddling. In fact, you know what? I would say over the last few weeks, I've probably been doing more paddling than I have in the last few years, which isn't hard to beat, but I've actually just been doing longer sessions on the water again. I came back from those Lifesaving World Titles, which we'll get to in a moment, aware that it was time to start again. And, you know, it's that grind of going, we're not just doing 1 hour, 10, 12K sessions anymore. We're actually going to start to do the kind of Ks that you need to at this time of year. So, mate, I've been getting off the water, going to Woolies, buying a bottle of Powerade, buying a protein bar, you know, chalky milk. Like, it's funny how quickly you lose it, but also just that feeling of getting Ks back in the body again, and how much you enjoy doing it. So, man, I've actually been going pretty well. I've been really enjoying it.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about my paddling, so might as well just jump in the deep end, hey?
In fact, Macca, that is where we're going to start on our power plays, which this episode is brought to you by Vaikobi.
The Paddler's Pod. Power Plays.
The Shore and Partners Foster race weekend held at a different time to what we've seen in the past 4 years, I believe, since Dean and the Australian Ocean Racing Series team started hosting these events up in Foster on the New South Wales mid-north coast. And they actually got wind. Macca, it's been a long time coming. You've had a lot of offshore days, a lot of headwind days you've had to contest with over the years. But on that Sunday, you got really good conditions up there.
Yeah, it was amazing, actually. It was pretty well close to perfect, about as close as to perfect as you could hope for. I think the only thing that might not have worked in our favour, and I say this now, but at the time I was grateful for it, was the shortening of the course. They actually revised the course because it was really hairy, from the 22k course just back down to the reversal of the Saturday shorter course. And I think, at the time I was like, I need the distance for Worlds because Worlds could be like 29k. But at the time, you know what I mean? I'm like, how good's a 13k downwind? You sort of finish and go, yeah, done. But conditions are amazing, right? Take off from Foster Main Beach and you just sort of work your way into the runs, and it just gets better and better and better. You almost get to the end and go, damn, do I have to go in? So it was finally good to see. Saturday was a bit of a different story. Saturday was quite hard. The wind was just pretty well onshore, and we were like paddling back into some residual south swells. Just, I guess, it's one of those days that won't go down in the history books as the best conditions by any means, but that's what we do ocean paddling for, right? It's could be anything on the day, and we all line up in the hope that it's like Sunday. And I'm glad that we were able to get on the water and do that instead of going to a contingent flat water venue. So commending them on that choice for sure.
One of the days where you get off the water and say, that's good training, the Saturday. And the Sunday, look, to be honest, I didn't think you guys were going to get a race in. For those who aren't aware or who are listening from overseas, there was a big southerly weather system that moved its way up the east coast of Australia, and that actually caused a fair bit of stress for Dean Gardner and the organising team at Ocean Paddler as well, because we were predicted to get 30-knot winds out of the south, and probably about a 3.5, 4 metre groundswell was being predicted for that part of the coast as well, which, look, when it comes to running races, that's not a good thing, is it, Macca? When you're trying to make sure that it's, available to all paddlers. But look, it sounds as though you shot the gap really well. We'll talk about Sunday in a moment. Let's just start at Saturday. If you want a full wrap-up of the results of both days, head to the paddler.news website. I do have a write-up on there, reflections from the two winners of both days, Corey Hill and Gemma Smith. Corey Hill taking out both races. He started on the Saturday with the 9 Mile Classic and then took out the Foster Ocean Classic on the Sunday as well. That's his second win in the 4 years that it has been held. Mackie, you finished second on both days too, behind Corey. On the Saturday, I believe it was Harry Torrens who claimed his first podium finish in the Opens category on the Australian Ocean Racing Series. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Alex Woodhouse who got onto the podium on the Sunday. Macca, is that right?
You are correct, fellow NK paddler.
Yeah, that's right. So great to see Alex. Hey, him and his sister Phoebe, who was also on the women's podium. Such great supporters of racing. We see them at so many races. So it was good to see the under 23s making that step up there. All the category results, head to the website. In the women's side of things, it was Gemma Smith on top on both days as well, and she looked really strong. Different podium makeups on both days too. Sasha Torres was in the mix, so too Phoebe Woodhouse. I mentioned Caitlin Reeves finished on the podium on the Saturday as well, a rising star out of Newcastle. So, look, great to see that racing get underway. Mako, let's just have a chat about Corey to start with. He didn't really know kind of what to make of the way he was paddling coming into the weekend, but he saw enough in his paddling to go, yeah, I'm actually feeling pretty on track for the World Championships, which is now just 2 weeks away for you guys. What did you see of Corey, and how do you think he's traveling?
Yeah, really good. Like he has that ability, you know what I mean, to just go into work mode on those days that are less than desirable. I think, on the Saturday, it's one thing to be, everyone can turn up on a downwind and put their best foot forward because everyone loves it. It's another thing to turn up and just be ready for the grind and the hurt and just think of it as training and know that you'll be better for it. And I think he's probably one of the best at that. And his consistency over the last, it's now almost up to 9 years, is definitely a testament to that. So I think he's in pretty good stead. We've been training together a little bit, and he's definitely put in the work, doing all the right things. And yeah, I have no doubt that he's trying to claim what is, it's crazy to say, a 4th world title, right?
Crazy, mate. It is unbelievable. No one has ever won 3. So yeah, look, Corey certainly looks on form. Macca, mixed results for you in terms of the way that you wanted to perform. The results say it was about 2 minutes on the Saturday back from Corey, whereas on the Sunday it was a matter of about 40 seconds. How did you race, and how did you find those two different courses up there. I guess you mentioned the conditions, but how are you feeling with your paddling?
Yeah, look, life's busy for me at the moment. No excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses or anything. I just got a lot on my plate, and unfortunately, some of the little things that make the difference are getting. I'm turning the big rocks over. If you look at it in that analogy, and getting all the training that needs to be done paddling wise, but all the gym and the stretching, the running, some of that's a little bit lax. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm at though. It's Saturday was tough, right? And Corey's in that mindset of okay, I'm here to, I'm gonna try and put the most amount of time into me, I guess, as he can. And then he broke away from the outset, and then I'm sort of left in no man's land between him and the next people. I'm sort of not going to catch him, and the others aren't going to catch me, and it's just it's a weird space to play, right? Because we're sort of used to having a higher depth of field, where you're always, there's someone around you to race, and so Saturday, I was sort of in a bit of a limbo, but I think Sunday I was like, okay, I need to put this together and show that I'm at where I need to be, especially now there's some runs, and I was really wrapped with that because Corey and I were pretty well battling it out the whole way. I was on an outside line, and he was on an inside line. I actually thought I was going to come over the top of him, and I could have turned around to him and said what he said to me after the 14 Beaches Australian champs, when he's like, why were you so close in? I was hoping that I could say that to him, but he actually just got pushed out at the end, and we sort of we're two runs behind paddling in. Gemma separating us in between as they left. I think the girls left 6 minutes earlier. So I'm happy. I'm happy with where I'm at. I know that the Worlds is, it's one race. It's either going to be 20 or 29K, and it's going to be a world of pain for about, an hour to an hour 40, and then it'll be over. So
I like the idea. I like the idea of it only hurting for an hour. 20K is
20K sounds a bit better.
That sounds about right.
I don't know, but it would be an interesting question to talk through of would you rather 20K with some little little runs, or 29K pump and downwind? I'm going 29K every day of the week.
Mate, I think at the moment I'd take the same.
Yeah, who knows? It's an interesting one.
Oh, you know what? Actually, maybe we'll talk about it at the end. I actually did a downwind recently. I should have talked about this at the start. I did my first downwind in what would have been about 2 years. I don't even know if I told you this, Macca. Jake Rees and I paddled from Manly to Newport on the Sydney Northern Beaches. We were both in spec skis. I didn't really know what to expect. I haven't done anything like that chasing runs in so long. Mate, we averaged 3-minute 30Ks the whole way.
Jesus.
It was the best downwind I've ever had in Sydney. And look, it's not a huge sample size, but normally when that ground swell kind of pushes up the east coast past Sydney, there's a lot of refraction off the cliffs. It gets pretty bouncy. We just timed it right in terms of getting the front of a southerly system. In fact, it was a southerly system that weekend when you guys were going to Foster. When it came through on that Thursday. Well, mate, it was that enjoyable. I could have kept paddling. It was so much fun. And that was actually really good to go right back to say, have you been enjoying it? That actually made me go, how good's downwind paddling?
How good. I'm glad to hear you're loving it.
Enjoying it. Look, Macca, let's chat about Gemma Smith. I've been training with her a little bit as well. She's obviously been doing a lot of work for the Coolangatta Gold. You can read that article on the website as well. She's not racing at the World Championships, which is, something we spoke about in the last episode of the podcast. I would have to say that, over the last 6 months 5 months, however long it's been that Gem's been putting in this work, that putting all of the swimming, the board paddling, the running back into her program, she would say that she was coming to ski training tired and kind of managing that fatigue as well. In this last few weeks, it's all kind of come together again. And I'm like, wow, she is moving to be able to do the work that she's doing at the moment. And I think she showed glimpses of that. Well, I think she showed a lot of it, actually. I shouldn't say glimpses. Up at Foster, look, there wasn't a huge field for the women, and there wasn't a depth of caliber to push Gemma. She's always being pushed by everyone around her. Absolutely. But mate, she did a 10K run. She did a board session on that Sunday morning before she lined up in that race, and she still won by about 2.5 minutes. Then she got off the ski and did a swim set as part of a Coolangatta Gold run through. I cannot wait to see her race at Coolangatta Gold. I'm so excited for Gem. But then beyond that, she's going to be back for 20 Beaches. She's going to be back for the Doctors. She's actually racing this Saturday at North Bondi And it's just a different look to her paddling at the moment. I think that swim fitness has made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't see obviously a lot of her battling because I was in the race myself, but she looked pretty comfy, and I know that she's been doing a lot of work, and I would tend to agree. Like you see that from DMAC when she was going around. She was doing the whole Iron Woman circuit, I should say, and I think it definitely pays dividends. Just that fitness, that raw fitness level. Where you're like chasing runs, that fartlek training, the recovery time needed between, the runs is significantly reduced when you've done so much aerobic work, I feel, anyway, especially, and they do so much racing, and short, sharp racing, whether it's like board starts or ski starts off the beach with short recovery. That's pretty well what a downwind is, like time and time again, just 100 of them, 200 of them.
Absolutely. Hey, maybe even more. So
let's hope.
Look, it was a great weekend of racing, Mac, at a different time of year. Brought, better conditions around. The field was about 100 paddlers that were up there in Foster as well. Look, a few more wanted to get there. We've spoken about some of the guys who are missing. Tommy Norton was quite sick and wasn't able to make that trip. It just feels as well, Macca, and look, I'm not saying, I think it's the right time of year to be running this event, but I don't know how you feel about to be getting on a plane, but there's about to be a big race every weekend, if not every second weekend, until the end of the year. So I'm interested to kind of see how the future of the Foster weekend pans out in terms of numbers and people making that trip. But it seemed like everyone who was there had a really great time.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, bit of watch this space as Dean condenses his series, and people obviously can't travel every weekend to race, but it does make complete logistical sense for him to be able to run a series within a smaller window. I think everyone, like you said, really enjoyed their time there. Always great to finish with a good downwind, which leaves like a very nice taste in everyone's mouth, wanting to come back. It was still cold, though. I guess.
Well, look, for you it would be, wouldn't it, Macca? So
I'm going to call out Simon Trainer. He was there freezing his ass off on the second day too. And he's from Melbourne. So it definitely felt like the big southerly front certainly didn't. I mean, it was great for the paddling, wasn't so great for the warmth. But once you get going, you know what I mean? You just warm up. It's pretty
exactly right. You warm up quickly. You always need to be cold getting on the water, don't you? Because if you're warm when you get on, you know that things are about to get a whole lot hotter.
That's exactly right.
Look, it wasn't too hot for Corey's boys. Corey, in that article on the website, was reflecting on the fact that he wanted to run up the beach on the Saturday with all three boys who were playing in the water. And there's a beautiful photo of Coda waving to Corey's as coming in on the wave to take the win in that 9 Mile Classic. The only problem for Corey when he went to scoop up his boys was that two of them had taken their pants off and were running around naked. And Corey thought, you know what? I'm not going to carry naked kids across the line. It's a bad look for the brand. So instead he ran on his own. But
I was going to say, instead he got naked and ran with them. Yeah, that's what you wanted.
I wouldn't have put it past him. So look, it was a great weekend of racing up there, but it's not the only racing that we have seen lately as well.
Number 3.
Maybe we're getting soft in our older age now, Macca. Look, there would have been a time when we wouldn't have strayed from the path of talking pure downwind racing, but there has been a bit going on in those surf ski adjacent sports lately as well. Let's start at the Life-Saving World Championships. It's a funny time of year to have something like that. As I mentioned, I was up there racing. Certainly can't sprint. Yeah, I was working as well, doing a bit of commentary. There's some people messaged the paddler page. I thought that was quite nice. Thanks for your messages.
It's very nice.
And mate, it was great to see not only in the national teams competition, the paddlers that we did have from around the world who we have seen in downwind racing a fair bit do quite well, but also in that inter-club competition as well, which, look, it's not about picking one or the other, but for me, that's probably the World Championships, if you're going to call it that, for surf life saving. And Macca, there's one big result that I want to have a chat about, and that is the Open Men's Surf Ski Race, which wasn't won by Murray Stewart. It wasn't won by either of our Olympic medalists, Riley Fitzsimmons or Jackson Collins. Instead, it was taken out by a favourite of the Paddlers Pod and a favourite of the downwind paddling community in Perth as well, and that is Patrick Ely, who has broken through for the biggest win of his life. In fact, it was the biggest performance of his career, and it beat the mark that he set a day before in that board race. He almost came through and won that board race. Instead, it was the ski that he did take out in what can only be described as perfect doctor conditions. That wind was blowing at the exact angle and the exact strength that he's learnt to paddle in on the beaches of Sorrento in Western Australia. It's a finish line for the doctor as well, and it certainly looks like that too. He hit that can second, chasing Murray Stewart, who had absolutely exploded on the way out to the cans. And then he started skating those runs back in. Macca, you know Paddy at a personal level. You've known him for a long time. How great was it to see one of our own, in terms of downwind paddling, just get a big scalp like that in surf lifesaving and show, you know what? These downwind runs, this downwind ability that we have from Western Australia, mate, it's unmatched in the world.
He certainly put his name
Well,
on
actually,
the map.
sorry, just before I go on from that, I know South Africans are going to absolutely just rip my head off for saying that. It's unmatched in Australia, and it competes with all of the South Africans in Cape Town and Durban as well.
Yeah, well, it's like that. A South African generally always wins the national teams competition, right? It was Mark Keeling and
Matthew Coates took it out. Yeah, did great.
And so it's like they always seem to lift in those. I mean, smaller racing, I think it's just a handful of races and there's only a couple of, you know what I mean, people that are vying for that win in those races. But this interclub race, yeah, I must say, like, Paddy was surprised. I reckon I was probably a bit surprised too. I'd never doubted his paddling ability, right? But he's lining up against guys that have, like, how many Australian titles are in that race between Ryan Fitzsimmons, Jackson Collins, Murray Stewart, and now Benny Carberry being their current
How many Olympic
Australian
medals
title.
are in that race?
Yeah,
this is as big. It was actually, for a carnival that wasn't that serious, just given the time of year that it was in, it was really serious.
No, it was.
It was elite stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on that. And it's not like these guys are not fit too. They've just come off the Olympic Games, you know what I mean? They're about as good as they've ever been paddling. Admittedly, like, they probably would have benefited more if it was in the flat, because those skills, and Paddy is a true testament to that, is it's honing those skills and always continually doing that, which is what he has been done and continues to do. And that's what shone through in that later stage of the race, where he just able to skip away. He practically was on a run, like, and not one that he sat there on. He just worked and you know, turned and pivoted and the whole way in, and took himself to the lead, a wave in front. It was really cool to see. I'm super stoked for him. I wonder if it's sunk in for him yet. I know he's been over here training with Michael King and the Burley crew, and that certainly, I reckon, paid a lot of dividends in the time. But he's not long after his win, he jumped on a plane and headed back to Perth, just back to normal life, and now a world champion.
It was almost a downwind double. Gemma Smith did just about everything she could have to win a race that seemingly Mother Nature just didn't want her to win. She got hit at the start. She had to paddle on her own, and she paddled down the pair of Olympians in Ali Bull and Elise Wood to get to that first can. She broke her head on the way in. She got jagged. A wave of about 6 paddlers caught up to her, and then she got taken out by Ali Bull as she was coming into the finish too. It was a really dramatic race. I'll tell you what, it was a roller coaster to call that one. But look, Gemma certainly showing that she's on the pace, as we have spoken about too. Macca, we're going to leave the life-saving world titles there. We're going to head over to Croatia. That's actually my family's homeland, over in Croatia, where the Canoe Marathon World Championships were held over this past weekend as well. Look, they've been on my periphery. I know that we've both seen a few of those results too. As we did just give them a quick scan before we started doing this podcast about 25 minutes ago. But Macca, there was one thing that jumped out to me, and that was and I kind of picked up on this, you know, throughout that week, was that, man, our Surfski contingent had horrible luck over there. Like, we had a lot of DNFs. We're talking about Andy Burkett and Hamish Luthmore weren't able to finish in the K2 race. Macca, their boat was sinking.
I believe so. I can't say much more, or I don't know much more on that, but I do believe that the boat was sinking or had sunk and are unable to finish. Not ideal by any means.
Absolutely not ideal if we're talking about boats sinking. Look, there was a bit of bad luck too for Nikki Burkett in the K1. She was unable to finish. So too Saskia Hockley and Jade Wilson in the under-23s as well. Macca, there was some results for us to celebrate. Uli Hart, silver in the under-23 men's K1. That's a good sign for the way that he's been progressing as well, because of course he did win those South African trials earlier this year. Another good result for Uli. What do you make of the way that we're starting to see him come on?
I reckon, like he's got that, you know what I mean? He's got the full workhorse engine. There's no doubt about that at all. I think it's just refine. He doesn't even need to refine any skills in the ocean, right? He's got amazing results at the Doctor. And he is definitely going to be one to watch for the world titles, right? He's on that trajectory. He's starting to put some really good results together in a time where it counts not just for yourself, but for everyone else around. Like when you're continuing to deliver time and time again, that is in your head, but it's also in everyone else's head come the world titles. So I think he is a little bit, maybe I heard on the grapevine, a little bit addicted to the kayaking world after him and Hank's little dive at an Olympic campaign, and it'd be interesting to see if there's any transition there where he looks to take on the kayaking game.
I think Andy Burkett and Hamish Lupmore are kind of feeling the same thing after their experience in Paris, going, hey, this sprint stuff's actually
the boys
not too
are on
bad.
it. Yeah,
I mean, slope. That's
not only
starts.
did they have amazing results, they also look like they had almost an even better time.
I think they potentially had the most fun in the whole kayak field. Look, Georgia Singh as well, the South African junior female paddler, she got a silver medal. I'm not sure whether she's going to be racing at the Ocean Ski World Titles. Holly Smith, I expect to be there as well. She finished just outside that top 10. We're speaking about Uli. He and Hank did unite in the K2. They finished in 5th in that race where Andy and Hamish were unable to finish. And Hank, 9th overall in the senior men's marathon too. Hank has kind of been suggesting that he was kind of, winding things back on his marathon paddling. Clearly not. He was
never.
He was 9th in about an hour of 2 hours, 10 minutes. Mads Pedersen won yet again. In fact, we can claim him as a surfski
I was going to bring this up.
He has done a few surfski races.
100%. And he paddled here on the Gold Coast multiple times in an ocean ski. I lent him my Nordic to paddle on while he was here doing some sprint training. So he is 100% a surf ski paddler. We did some jump starts with him. It was great fun. Just in the end of the canal near Corey's place. And he was like, I don't know if I've told you this. He might hate me for telling the story. He's like, I just don't understand the jump start stuff. Like, how do you guys get the feet in? And we said, oh, okay, like this is a very, very quick introduction. But like, you know what I mean? You can portage. Like, I can never portage. And he goes to jump in and sort of gets it and whatnot. And then he comes back, he's like, oh, maybe I'll try the other side. And I'm like, oh, it's not really how it works with jump starts. You can't really pick like, oh, I'm going to do it. I mean, maybe you can, but we just don't know about it. So he's 100%. We're claiming Mads. So Mads, if you're listening, probably isn't. But if someone is that knows him, you're a surf ski paddler now.
Well, he's done enough surf ski races as well up in the Baltic Sea, in the north of Europe up there too. So yeah, congratulations to Mads. We're going to be seeing all of those surf ski paddlers in action. God, in just a few days' time.
Number one.
Well, we have had 10 years plus, 11 years of the ICF Ocean Racing World Championships. And I'll tell you what, this is the hardest year to get a read on in terms of what we are going to see in performances, in athletes who are traveling well. It feels like the most open kind of field of having a really long time. And it is now just 1 week away. So, Macca, I thought we're going to dedicate a little bit of time chatting about, I guess, just what we are expecting this year from the competitors, next week from the competitors on Madeira. To begin with, Mac, how do you kind of take it all in as a paddler? Because normally we've had a lot of lead-up races. Last year, of course, we had a whole Shore and Partners WA race week, so we knew exactly how everyone was traveling, but there is a lot of unknown this year.
There is. And there's also a lot of unknown that no one's really been there, right? They ran a race, a warm-up race. Bernardo Pereira, obviously born there, paddles there. I mean, the local advantage he's going to have is huge, right? As long as he's not taken up with too many sponsorship commitments with his car hire company. I think it's just like no one's been there. No one's done that race. and no one knows the course. No one really knows the place at all. No one really knows what's in store either. It's a bit like turn up at Madeira and we will we'll put on a World Championships, and I think it's, from what they've got planned, it looks like it's going to be an amazing event, but I don't know too much detail outside of that. And it feels weird for me, right? Because last year I was so engrossed. I mean, we both were in the World Championships over in Perth because we had so much to do with it, and like even organising it and all the rest of it. Now I've like taken a bit of a back step, and you're along for the ride. And the terms of the lead-up races, yes, there's been some, but nothing of like an international presence where anyone's faced off against one another. There's also, I think it's just Corey and myself going from Australia, so we're definitely outnumbered in the Australian versus South African battle. So that will be an interesting one. And I think Europe, this will probably be the championships where like the Europeans shine. I think that's my prediction. That's what I think is most likely going to happen. We're going to see an influx of Europeans within that top 10 period.
Mate, I'll tell you what, they've been banging down the door for a while now.
Well, they did it in Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Like Portugal was incredible how many Europeans were in the top 10. Just geographically being in Australia, there's obviously, I think it is geographic to wherever the championships is, depending, and that shows like where the majority of paddlers come from, and determines like if there's more of that region in the top 10 or 20. So I think we're going to see a lot of that as well.
Just on that uncertainty, Macca, has it been hard to prepare for as an athlete? The fact that it's so open-ended, not just the conditions and things like that, but also the fact that you referenced it earlier in the episode as well. There's two courses that can be ran. They're 10 kilometers apart in terms of distance. That is an enormous difference.
Yeah, it is. It has been challenging in a way, right? Like, there's probably a difference between training and racing for a 20K race and training and racing for 29. Like, 29's a solid stint, right? It's easily going to be an hour and 40 minutes, like an hour and 45 minutes. It's longer than the Doctor, which... Yeah.
Well, it depends what year you do it. Longer than the Doctor last year? Hopefully not, because that was a long flat grind for you.
Well,
now, Macca...
Yeah, kilometres wise, it's longer, but hopefully not in time.
Summer's here, Macca. It has arrived. I've started wearing my Vaikobi UV range on the water. Up top at least, a little bit more as that temperature starts to climb. The V cold is about to get packed away for another year. And I hope it's a year until I see it again, because if I can avoid a winter, I would certainly enjoy that. Macca, we've spoken a lot over the last few weeks with Vaikobi's sponsorship of the Paddlers Pod, which has actually been going for a really long time as well, about the fact that those seasons are starting to change. Well, you got the best of both seasons, the main two at least anyway, at the Shaw and Partners Foster race weekend, when you had warm weather on the Saturday and cold conditions on the Sunday. That is the perfect example of why you need to head to vaikobi.com and make sure that you are prepared for whatever Mother Nature throws your way.
I don't know what I'm going to do in Madeira. I'm going to have to pack for both, right? It has the potential to be, once again, super cold, and also maybe not super hot, but definitely hot enough to not be in the V-cold range, and more in the summer range, because we know how it heats up when racing starts.
I know that you've got your little V-cold shorts that you like to wear on European race trips, which is the warmth of the V-cold range in the short form for that cold Atlantic water when you are racing, Macca. You might have to find those ones again.
Yeah, big sucker for those. I love those. They're probably my favourite thing, right? A little bit of extra padding, a little bit of extra warmth. Don't notice it too much, but in the summer months, but still keep you warm. I end up wearing them all year round, to be honest.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
Wow. Look, I know we say that a lot on this podcast, but I can't believe what's become of you, Macca. I cannot believe what's become of you.
I have turned into the biggest wuss, and I don't know if Vaikobi's helping me, actually. Maybe they're aiding my wussiness.
I think they are making you that little bit Soft tobacco because it's
I'm
hard not
okay
to be
with that.
so comfortable in the Vaikobi range. As we've mentioned, that UV range has you covered in the warmer months, which for everyone in the Southern Hemisphere is on the way. But if you are living north of the equator, get ready because things are about to get a whole lot cooler as well. So you can get whatever you need from the V-Cold range. Well, you can get whatever you need from both ranges, all the accessories at vaikobi.com. Huge supporters of the Paddlers Pod. One more thing before we go, Macca, and that is Talkback Radio. We've been teasing this for a few episodes on the Paddlers Pod now, maybe a few more. In fact, it almost was stretched out to another week when, what have you forgotten? Well, I almost forgot to post the link again. In fact, what have I forgotten? I think people could probably be able to hear it. I forgot my microphone and I forgot my camera. I'm currently recording from Caves Beach, Newcastle, the home of the Epic Moon Islands Classic, which actually was run last weekend as well. It was another great day for the People's Race. It is the People's Race, the Epic Moon Islands Classic. The only problem was that there was absolutely no wind. So it was a pretty flat grind. But it was a beautiful day. And I think that counts for something. That's one of those days that you referenced earlier, Macca, where it's good for training to get days like that in the bank, isn't it?
I think those days are good for drinking after, even more so.
Well, I'm sure a few people put that to the test as well. So, yeah, really successful day there too. And that is where I'm currently recording from. But, yeah, I forgot my stuff. Now, Macca, you've forgotten plenty of things in your time. In fact, if you put all the things that you've forgotten, into a pile, you would have enough to do a race. Ski, paddle, all your paddling clothes. I'm sure you forgot your garment at some point. That's not too bad.
I'm just forgetting them all into one pile and they're just going to be the lost property bin for anyone that needs it.
We had a couple of messages come through on our different social pipes as well. One of our commenters on YouTube saying that he, just the other morning, he forgot his paddle when he did get down to the session, and rather than, go home, get his paddle and go back, he just went home and got straight back into bed. And I can't argue with him on that as well. I think I've done that one a few too many times. But there can only be one winner of the $100 Vaikobi voucher. And Macca, it is one of the great stories of our time as well. We actually referenced this when we first put it out there about what you have forgotten. And this story comes in from Greg Tobin, who actually isn't too far away from me here in Caves Beach in Newcastle. And what did he forget? Well, here's Greg to talk us through it.
Paddlers News asking about things, the biggest mistake you made, forgotten on the doctor. Coming from the idyllic lookout, there's Moon Island there. The great Moon Island Ocean Classic has just been on a couple of weekends ago. But to the story. Look, it was some years back. It was, I think it was maybe the first doctor I did actually, and had been paddling ocean skis for probably 2 seasons or so, and I just moved from one brand to another brand, and there wasn't a lot of skis in the contingent of the race, so that's probably one factor that you'll put into my story. And if anyone's been to the doctor, there's a little pre-briefing that Dino puts on, and he talks about don't forget your rudder. Always make sure you got your rudder. We haven't got spare rudders. Okay, so you can tell where this story's going. So we'd been over there, and Semi DJ, he was a part of our contingent. A boys group went over, all staying together, and it was the morning of. We're all driving a hire van, getting out there. I'd packed everything, made sure I had me bladder, had all me pre-race muesli bars and caffeine hits and everything like that. Got ready. I've packed the bag furiously. Went right over everything. We're jumping on the ferry. Basically, get over to the ferry, and we're all there. We're seeing our boats lined up all across on the grass there where the barge has taken them over the night before, and then I get there and I look through my bag, and lo and behold, the rudder's not there. So I've Semi's had a look at my face, and the face has dropped, and next thing it's begun. The questions are, Dino, have you got one for this particular brand? No, mate, I haven't got one for them. We only got ones for Fen. Oh, God. Gone to the brands. Have you got one for this one? No, we haven't. Oh no, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to. Now the panic starts happening. I'm going to have to do the shameful trip back on the ferry by myself. Next thing, what have you tried this brand? And this brand had just gotten like one of the first ones to do their own boat. So here's the boat over near the start line, which is far away if anyone's been there. So here's me. Next thing, a multi-sport event has started. I've run from where the boats are, run along the beach all the way along there, swum out to the boat. Hey guys, have you got a spare rudder? Look, we've only got this style. And I've gone, it's just going to have to do. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've grabbed the rudder, stuffed it down the shorts, swum back to the beach, run up to the boat. So she's a bit tight. The shaft of the rudder, I've jammed it in there. She's gone up, and pretty much she's a fixed fin, 6 fin, 6 meter surfboard that I've created. Unfortunately, I had to try and get the T-piece in, so I had no tools, I had nothing with me. I've run to the general store, procured a few items, safety pins, super glue. I've jammed the T-piece on to just try and make sure that I don't lose the rudder on the way back in case you hit weed and things like that. So basically jammed it on there, got there, the heart rate's through the roof. I've run Ks, I've swum out the boats, I've swum back in. I'm at the start there, I've gone, this race is done and dusted. This thing's just going to get me back to shore, so I haven't done the race. But unfortunately, it was one of the really good years of the Doctor. There was some good wind. It was above 15 knots. There was a few white horses to get back on. So I've gone off with I've let the crew go off there, so I didn't get in the way of the hotspot run. And next thing, the swells just started connecting. It was a bit of Happy Gilmore work, all in the hips, used the rails of the boat, and unfortunately, I've come in with a top 10 win. So it wasn't all bad, and maybe I probably got a bit better if I could use the rudder. But yeah, that's regrettably my shameful story. Some may call it overcoming adversity, but some may call it a pure brain fart. But yeah, that's my story of missing an item, making a crucial mistake for the Doctor race. Thanks for listening to my story.
Well, there it is, one of the great surfski stories of our racing generation, at least anyway, Macca. I think it actually, look, with the power of hindsight now, Greg no doubt would have rather that didn't happen, but the fact that he still went on to claim a top 10 finish in that race at the Doctor, I think he finished ninth, he was saying, but the fact that he still went on to claim a top 10 finish, and now 10 years on, he still has that story to keep us entertained, that could be worth more than any podium place, right?
That's exactly right. I think, yeah, like you said, he would have loved to have not done it and see where he might have finished, but at the same time, he has, geez, what a yarn, hey? And it's also one that they continually tell at the Doctor.
I was going to say that, to be able to be the guy that when Dean says, don't forget your rudders, we've had people forget their rudders before, to be the guy that actually forgot his rudder to start that story, that's his own little place in history, isn't it? It's not quite a name on the trophy, but I tell you what, to get brought up at the briefing every year isn't great. Too bad either. That is Talkback Radio for this episode of the Paddler's Pod. A $100 Vaikobi Voucher going Greg's way. It is so easy to do and to win. We'll be announcing the next topic on the next episode of the Paddler's Pod too. So make sure you give us those stories, because we want to keep giving away a bit of merchandise, a bit of love from Vaikobi as well. But for now, Macca, you need to go and pack, and you need to write a list, actually, what you need to do.
Yeah, I got too many lists. I need to condense. You
need to make sure you don't forget a single thing, because when we are going to be speaking to you next, or at least hearing from you next, he's going to be, it's going to be on the other side of the world. Maybe we might have to try and record a little podcast when you do land, depending on what day that race is going to be held. But as always, we'll have a really comprehensive breakdown of the race. We'll have reactions from our podium place getters as well. At the 2024 ICF Ocean Racing World Championships, that is going to be taking up a huge chunk of discussion on the next episode of the Paddlers Pod. Macca, start packing those bags, and don't you dare forget a thing.
I've just succumbed to the fact that I'm going to forget something, and I'll tell the story on the next podcast. So that's where I'm at. But you got anything else to add? Otherwise, I'll I'll tune in from Madeira. And
You say those, Matthew, you say those words and you get out of here.
get out of here, go traveling, and I'll see you on the other side of the world. Until next time, take care and enjoy.
The Paddlers Pod with Sam and Macca.